Hi, it's Mystical, and before we begin today, I just want to say something about my last video. Now, I talked a little bit about the comet, or not the comet, I'm sorry, the asteroid that hit in Ohio, and I was talking a little bit about how scary it must have been for people because I personally have been a wreck. Not a wreck, okay? I don't want to say that, but I've just been very anxious and the whole war stuff has been on my mind a lot. And I just can't believe what's going on right now. Like, I really truly believed that we were kind of done with that. I hoped that, I'm not going to get political here. I really do not want to get into politics at all, but I was kind of hoping that that was going to be something of the past, but apparently not. It seems like it's like right in our face in the future again, and I'm scared, and I'm not even in one of the like where the whole thing is going on, and so I can't even imagine how those people are feeling right now, like the people in those countries right now. And I really don't want to get into it because I am not somebody who knows a whole lot about what's going on. I just know it is very scary, and I know that during this whole thing with the asteroids in March 2026 and the Bigfoot, we are dealing right now with like threats, whether you believe them or not, or whether you think what you want to think about them. We have been getting them, and it's been really scary, and it's something that I was really hoping that we wouldn't be getting involved in. And so I just wanted to mention that. Like, I'm not just saying that just to say it. I truly am saying it because that's the times we're in. That's what's going on in March 2026. And that's how I feel because I have anxiety and I'm a big baby. So I can't even imagine, again, living in those actual countries where this whole thing is really going on, even though we are involved, which is just awful to me. And I just want it to stop. I really wish that we were above this and we were beyond this and we could just move on. But again, it's money, it's power, it's things that are just not in the regular people's best interest, and I have no idea what's going on, but all I know is I know why Bigfoot want nothing to do with us, and that's why. That is why Bigfoot want absolutely nothing to do with the human race. So, and all that stuff, people think, oh, because we have all these weapons and stuff like that, that means we're above, and it comes to a certain point where it's like, no, it means that you are just reckless, and it's just not productive, and it's almost like foolish and just ridiculous and pointless anymore. And it's been going on forever. It really has. And there is a lot of violence in nature, and there's a lot of violence in the human condition, and humans definitely. And humans are some of the most horrific, violent things on the planet, if not are the most horrible things on the planet. There is no doubt about that. There's people who have been in war who come back from war and say, hey, like, I did not know humans can reach this level of evil, that what I saw on the battlefield, I had no idea humans could be so horrible and just pure evil. And we got evil running the place. We got the island, we got Epstein, we got all that stuff going on. We got, that's what these people are. And it's strange, scary times, and it's just they always tend to find their way to the top of everything because that's how they work, that's how they operate. And so that's all I really want to say on that, but I really just thought I would get that out there and put that out there so that you understand, like, I'm just aware of what's going on, and my heart is really, I feel very, I don't want to say I feel bad, but I just feel for the people who are dealing with this right now, and hopefully nothing happens, that, you know what I mean? So anyway, moving on. So this is going to be like a part 2 of my last episode, which currently has 0 views, but I'm making these videos anyway. I don't, it's really helpful for me to do this. Whether or not I get views or not, it really doesn't, it's not a big deal. So it does feel weird though to say, oh, hi, here's my part 2 and 0 people have seen my part 1, but that's okay. That's fine. Something just tells me to keep, posting these videos anyway, because they are beneficial. They are work and they are time and effort, even if doesn't seem like it, but it's something that I think is going to be worth it just alone from, it's something I would be doing anyway, like researching, and I think it's helpful for me to talk a little bit more in my day. And anyway, yeah, this is kind of like a part 2. So anyway, I am going to go on a little bit about the theories that I've had about where these Bigfoot came from. In this, I didn't really dive into this, I think, and this theory enough. So the theory that I wanted to say is the theory that they could have these Bigfoot, and the reason why there were so many in one area and everyone happened to see them at the same time is because maybe they were released from a lab. And the reason why I didn't say that or want to add that in is because I didn't think it made a whole lot of sense. I mean, we don't know. I am not here saying I know exactly what happened. I don't. And I don't think anybody really knows. And if they do know, they're probably not coming out with it, and they probably can't come out with it, but that's a whole other topic. But these are just theories that I have, I don't claim to know anything. There's things that are very, very consistent with Bigfoot encounters, and that's all I really know. And all I really know is things that are very consistent with my own encounter. That and what I can tell you what I saw. I could tell you what, exactly I saw as a witness to Bigfoot, and I can put clues together and things like that, but that's all I can do. I can't tell you that I know, but this is definitely a theory, escape from a lab or a underground facility or something like that. You never really know. You don't know. That technology is what it is today. It's not super out of the realm of possibility, and I am not a scientist. I don't know what's possible or not anymore. My IQ is probably like at 2. So basically this is just a theory. But anyway, I just didn't think it made much sense personally to me because of the way they were acting. They were running from the people. They, were very quick to escape the situation. I think that if these Bigfoot had been in captivity, I think that there would have been more aggression. And I think that there might have been a little bit more, they would have been more curious maybe. Maybe they would have not run away as fast. It's really hard to say, but I've always been confused, and this is just me speaking about my personal thoughts. I've heard witnesses say that they think that they know the lab that they came from. I can't remember. It was a really long time ago I heard this episode, but I think someone was talking about like a facility in Florida or something. But they think that these types of Bigfoot had been coming out of there. I don't doubt it because I'm not here to say what's real or what's not real. I am not. If people come out and say that, I've heard quite a few encounters where people refer to them being in a lab or something of that nature. But to me, I have a hard time believing that these things get released. Like people say, I hear this more with the dogman, I guess, that the dogman get released, like they're from an army or something and they are used for the military or whatever, and they get released, and there's like a couple thousand of them maybe around. Like I've heard that before, and I am not doubting that. It could be, we don't know. I'm not here to tell people that that's not what's going on, but like I have a hard time believing that because when things are in captivity, they don't know really how to live out in the wild. I just have a hard time believing that. Like you have any animal in captivity and they grow up there or they're created there and all they know is being in a cage or something, which I think whatever dogman, Bigfoot, whatever cryptids that are captured, I'm sure that their conditions are horrific, just like any other captured animal or a lab monkey or a test monkey. Their conditions are absolutely horrific. They're in small cages. Their lives don't matter. They're routinely subjected to horrible procedures, I'm sure, and whatever else. But if you release them, how are they going to know how to live out in the wild? How are they going to know how to acclimate to all that and form their own family members and tribes and things like that? That's why I have a little bit of a hard time with the whole lab thing, because I think that if a Bigfoot came from human captivity, I don't think that they would have the same reaction. I think they would be more docile towards humans. I think they would be looking to humans for food or shelter. They would just be more domesticated, I guess you would say. So that's why I have a hard time with that. But could that be the case? Could they have escaped from some kind of lab or facility? Absolutely. It's a cluster of Bigfoot. It's very unusual to have that happen. It definitely could have happened. There's no way about it. But to me personally, I don't really think that was the case with this cluster in Ohio. And then it leads me to this question that I'm sure we all have, that when it comes to these encounters, the fact that each and every one of these Bigfoot were not trying to stick around. I mean, all of them were running. They were not, being aggressive. They didn't attack or anything like that. They seemed very afraid and they were running away. You could say that they are afraid of people, or, I think that they are, or maybe that they're more indifferent, but why is this behavior that they have to just kind of run away? And they never really stop to hang around. They never stop to say hello or interact 90% of the time. The Bigfoot that I saw, I mean, it wanted nothing to do with us. And it just kept walking straight by. And it's still even hard to this day to understand, or to interpret if he was ignoring us, or it was like a kind of ignore when you get scared, or like you just don't want to see. Like, it was almost like, say you go to the grocery store and you see somebody that you really, really don't want to see at the grocery store. And they're like, oh, hi, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in forever. And you're like, you just don't care. You really don't want to see this person. So you ignore them and pretend as if you have like headphones on or something. And you're just walking away, but it's like kind of quick. And you acknowledge them kind of, but you don't. You definitely don't. The only way that you acknowledge them is you're walking you're walking extra fast to get away from them, but you're not looking at them. You're not trying to turn your head. That's what this Bigfoot, my encounter, was acting like. And it seemed, I don't know if fear is the thing that I would say, but these things all have this sense of fear, but yet they get seen. And if I really think that they have the intelligence, they have the abilities, I think they have psychic abilities. I think that they can sense people miles away, maybe even, who knows. They have probably a really great sense of smell. I don't know. My question just is, why do they act the way that they do? Why do they run away the way that they do? So, yeah, I mean, my biggest guess is that they really understand how awful we are. And I think that's the conclusion that I've come down to. And I think that it makes me, to be honest, it makes me feel a little sad, and it makes me not really want to be human that much. If you know what I mean, like, it makes me kind of sad, and it makes me feel bad almost about being human, and that we are so just something to run away from, whether it be aliens, Bigfoot, Dogman, or any of these cryptids. They just want nothing to do with us. And it's almost like we have a disease, or, I'm sure the fear is into it. We can, and we have, from encounters that I've heard and witnesses saying that they have been able to shoot them, take them down. And that is that they must know that, But these things really, really do not like us. They really don't. They know exactly what we are, who we are. They know us probably even better than we know ourselves. And they know more about us for sure than we know about them. I can almost guarantee that. I mean, this thing had like zero curiosity, really, of us. I mean, I really don't think that he was curious, even though he was walking past us. I don't think he was curious at all. I think he knew exactly what we were. I think it just knew, and it was like walking past something that, like a bug, like here we are so fascinated and drawn to this thing, and this thing just walks by us like we're freaking nothing, and I think they know exactly what we are. And, I just want to say, humans are amazing, okay? We can do so much. We are healers. We are creators. We're artists. We love, we laugh, we cry, we rescue, we have dreams. We can do so much as a species, okay? We truly, we are incredible. But there is this other side of the coin. And it came from millions of years, I think, of maybe basic survival. I don't know, but there's just this greed in us. I mean, think of the rulers that we have now, hoarding all everything. And it's just like maybe back in the old days, except money and all this stuff they were hoarding. Back then they were just hoarding all the fruit or whatever, or the special rocks or the gold, and it's just like nothing's changed. They're just like that monkey that just keeps grabbing all the fruit from the trees, and they're just hoarding it all, and they won't give it to their family, and they watch people suffer and they don't care. They just want to hoard it all from themselves. It's the same concept. Anyway, so these creatures, all of them, all of the 10 encounters that I've read from in Ohio, they all ran away, not one stuck around. It didn't seem like anyone really, stopped to communicate or stuck around for any reason. They all ran. Maybe they had a moment where they were observing for a quick time, but then they were gone. So it's exactly like my encounter, as I've been saying. These things could do, and going back to my encounter, this Bigfoot could have done anything. Like, if it wanted, it could have had us gone. Like, we would have been a missing 411 case in 2 seconds. And I'm sure that does happen rarely, but these Bigfoot in particular, they don't mess around. They don't try to kidnap you. They didn't try to take anybody. They didn't hurt anyone's pets, thankfully, or anyone's kids, or anyone. Everyone seemed to come out of this completely unharmed and uninjured, which is a very good thing. And so that's how it usually happens with the Bigfoot. I feel like 99 times out of 10, you're not going to get affected physically. And so this is where my portal theory comes back into play. So they're typically want nothing to do with us, despite the fact that they are usually in close proximity. Could it be that it's our trash and food that they're interested in? Yes, but, why do they end up in these places? And that's where my portal theory comes in. Like, why do they end up in seemingly the wrong place at the wrong time? So, maybe they do have the ability. Maybe they can go through portals. Maybe they can't, though, control where they end up when they go through these portals. And that's why they just appear in very random places that make no sense. And I want to just tell everyone, like, if I could see Bigfoot where I saw him, you can see him anywhere. You can see them anywhere. Just look outside your front door, you can see one there. Do they typically go out in cities? No, they wouldn't do that. I don't know why, but very, very close to, yeah. They're everywhere, and they can, be anywhere at any time. And we don't really know why. But what also throws my idea of that out the window is the encounters of people saying that they wounded the creature, and they are very physical. So I don't know a whole lot about the Bigfoot Society or anything like that. All I know is that there seems to be like a little war going on, I guess, of people who believe that they are supernatural, more supernatural. They're interdimensional beings. They can time travel. They have like these sort of powers and gifts and things like that are out of the ordinary. And then there's this other side that thinks they are very flesh and blood, like a monkey, or I think it's called Gigantopithecus blackie. I've seen a picture of that, and it did closely resemble what I saw. And they think that they are very physical and that there's nothing mystical about them. There's nothing crazy. They can't go through portals or anything like that. They're subjected to the same things that we are. So there's two sides of the coin. And I used to be more towards that side, like the very physical side. And it wasn't until I heard many other encounters that I realized that there's definitely something more mystical going on here. And something that my sister said when I asked her about it, like, how does she feel about it all these years later? And she called it straight up. It was unnatural. And I've never thought of that word until she said it. But when she said that word, I was like, oh my gosh, that's what describes this thing, is unnatural, because that is truly what it was. It did not seem natural. It did not seem like something that should be in nature. It wasn't like seeing a deer or a bird or anything like that. It just did not seem like it fit. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit off topic here, but what I mean to be saying here is, if they do have this ability to go through portals, you would think that during these times when they're being targeted by humans or hunted by them or hurt by them, that they would just disappear, before getting hurt or being captured or anything like that. You would think that that would be the case, but when people share that they hurt the creature, they hear screams, they see blood, there was no escaping. Now, some people say that they have seen these things just escape, and it's just like they are crazy good at just disappearing. But you know what also is crazy good at disappearing? Animals. One time this is just an example, but one time I was outside, or it was one winter and it was snowing. I was just looking outside of the yard of the woods, and I saw a fox or a coyote. I wasn't sure what it was, but I really wanted to get a closer look at it. And I think it was a coyote because it didn't have the fox coloring, but it had a very bushy tail. And it was weird because right before I saw it, I just heard this really high-pitched ringing. I have no idea why, but I heard that ringing, and I looked over in the woods, and I saw this coyote. I'll just call it a coyote. And I never seen one in there. And so I wanted to go follow it. So I went to follow it, and I was following it up the trail, and it just disappeared. I couldn't believe it. It disappeared. It went to the side. I was walking up the trail. It went, and it was snowing out, so it's not like, it was super dark out or anything. It was getting dark. It was like dusk, but it was snowing, and it was on my right side, I want to believe. It was gone. I was following it, and it was just gone. It took a right turn, and I couldn't see it. And I looked around, and I couldn't see it. And that happened another time too, when I was in that same woods. And I'm talking about the woods that I am obsessed with, that I always show you pictures of, like this woods. And that happened too. I saw a baby skunk, and it was so cute. And I was following this baby skunk, and it just disappeared into the ground. So animals have ways of doing that. They're very skilled. That's their lives. That's how they live. They know how to make themselves disappear. They spend a lot of their time working on that and learning that, because that's their life. And I think that is, 90% of the time, I think a Bigfoot is going to disappear. Like when my sister said it just got all on the ground and it disappeared. I think that was more, it could have been that it disappeared into the ground, actually. But I think that it was more a feature that they can do because they are able to walk on all fours as well as they can walk on their, upright. It's just something that they know how to do. And they live their lives out in the wild, out in the woods, and they are very good at doing that. You would be amazed the skills that you could learn if you decide to one day move out into the wilderness. It wouldn't take long for you to learn how to build a structure or make a fire or things like that, survival skills. Like, you don't know them now, and it would take you a while to learn, but once you're living that day to day and you're not spending all your effort and your time going to work, you work your 9 to 5 or whatever, if you're in an office or whatever, and then suddenly you don't have that life anymore. You just decided, hey, you know what? I'm just going to move into the woods. I think you would be amazed at the things that you could learn to do to survive, to live out in the woods. You don't know anything now, but you would learn how to do things that would surprise you, that would surprise you, and you would get skills that you wouldn't have otherwise gotten. So basically, that's just a huge question that I have. That's why I believe that they can't really control the portals. And people have said that aliens come and pick them up and take them out. And maybe it's the aliens that control when they come down to Earth, when they appear, when they disappear. Maybe that's up to the aliens. Because in a lot of ways, it is like that. It is like being dropped off. You can't get back in the car again. You don't have a car. You were dropped off here. You got to make it work until you get picked up. Why? I don't know. But that's why I think that maybe they do. Maybe they can go into portals and they do have that ability. But if they do, it's my belief that they don't really have as much control over that as we think that they do. They can't just snap their fingers and go into a portal. Maybe that there's some kind of concoction that needs to be made in order for that portal to be created. Could it be water? They are very drawn to water. Could water be essential in creating these portals? Are these portals maybe in trees? Are they made of some sort of material or something in nature that is rare? I don't know. Maybe aliens create the portals and you don't know where they are. Maybe these portals are constantly moving. It could be any sort of reason. But that's my reasoning. Just because they can maybe go through portals doesn't mean that they can have as much control over that as you would think. So I personally am of the belief that yes, they can and do go through portals, but I don't think there's a whole lot of control in that for them. Because if there was, I don't know if they would be seen by us at all. And I think that instead of running away, they would have just snapped their fingers and just disappeared when those people saw them. And they probably wouldn't even be there in the first place. There's encounters of Bigfoot where it's middle of the night, pitch black, there's one car on the road, and they cross the road. They didn't need to cross the road. They could have waited for that car to leave, and then the person in the car never would have seen it, and it would have been like it never happened. But yet they do have this way about them. It's just like my encounter. If it stayed where it was, I think it would have been fine. It was getting dusk. If there was homeless people around taunting it or something, it could have just, it was so dark and it was so tall. It could have just stood by a tree or something and someone would have probably thought it was a tree. Anyway, they do seem to want to make themselves known, which is very interesting. And they seem to maybe get a kick out of scaring us. Maybe they do. Maybe that feels like the most they can do since we have, things like weapons. They just like to scare us a little bit because I feel like they know that's all they can get away with, maybe. And that's especially true with the dog man. They seem to really get a kick out of scaring people, whether it's just to truly terrorize them or for their own entertainment and for fun. Or some people believe that they really truly feed off of fear. Maybe that's just their curiosity coming out and their intelligence, but they really do seem to be interested as much as they are disinterested. It's both can be very true with these things. They're interested in us. Maybe they're curious, but it's almost like maybe it's more like bored. Because I don't know if curious is the right word. A lot of people say curious. I was thinking curious for a minute, but I really think I'm going to stick with that they aren't. I think I'm sticking more with that they know what we are and they don't have a whole lot of curiosity. And that's just my opinion. Somebody might have had an encounter where it seemed very curious, like it was going through their stuff or something like that. like the Bigfoot on the Goofy movie, just going through all their camping supplies and just having fun and listening to the music and dancing and things like that. But I don't think that, I think for the majority of part of the time, especially when they're full grown adults, I think that they know what we are, and I think that there's just nothing that there's nothing super special about us, and they just don't really care. I don't. So this is so I have this other theory that I think I'm just going to bring up to kind of end this video here. Is, to me personally, I think there's no doubt in my mind that they've had a very long history with us, going back to ancient times. I tend to believe that they were actually the ones that helped us build the pyramids and structures like that. I mean, I'm not sure if that's 100%, but that is my theory. I believe giants and Bigfoot and creatures like that, the cryptids and all that, were able to help us create these structures back then. And unfortunately, you know, it's even in the Bible. This is my belief with the Bible, and I know it's my own belief, but I believe in I think it's like the first or second page when they said in the beginning there were giants. I think that's what they're talking about, is giants or Bigfoots. I believe in the giants too, but it could have been that they were talking about the Bigfoot in that instance, and they could have been the one that helped them build the pyramids and things. I can't say that 100%. I don't 100% believe that, because I personally don't know. But I'm maybe 90% sure that, because how else did people build these things back then? So if that's the case, I do believe that there was a point where we did get along. If you look back at a lot of ancient Egyptian drawings and things, if you look back at the drawings of the Neanderthals and stuff, they were, for the most part, I mean, I should look this up, but for the most part, they did draw, horses and deer and cattle and things like that, and real life animals, birds, things that you would see in real life. But in other cultures, they like to draw combination animals, a man with a bird's head, what is it, a lion with or a human head, or most, the sign of and then there's the dog-headed man that's commonly in ancient Egyptian times, Osiris, I believe. Anubis. It was a god-headed, or a wolf, German. It was like a wolf head and a human body, and it was associated with mummification, the afterlife, and the protector of the dead. Often depicted as a man with a canine head. He was like a guide for souls through the underworld. And that's what a lot of people associate Dogman with, as Dogman is usually found at graveyards, where around the dead. I find that very interesting. And so I think back then, when you saw Anubis, you didn't typically see, I mean, I have to look this all up. I'm just kind of saying this off the top of my head, but you didn't typically see Anubis eating people and causing damage and being violent. He was the person that guided you to the afterlife, and a noble sort of position. And so that's why I believe that back then in ancient times, there could have been a point where we got along, where we were together in the world, that we helped each other, and we had a relationship and a bond with these things, and we had knowledge of them, and they helped us. They built structures. I mean, maybe they didn't. Maybe we were slaves to them. That could have been it. I don't really know. But there seems to have been in ancient times this connection that we had with them. And I believe that there was a point where we did get along and we were coexisting. We were allies in this. And I believe somewhere along the line, at some point, something destroyed that trust. And that's kind of what scares me about all this, is because it seems like that trust has never been repaired since. I mean, hundreds of thousands of years, and it's never been repaired. And I don't think anything good is going to come out of that. I really don't. I think something happened in our ancient history that just kind of took a wrong turn. And I think that it has consequences. And I think even to this day, our lack of relationship with them now is going to have some kind of consequence. But that is just my personal opinion. I'm looking into this. I really am. And there's a lot more to be discovered when it comes to these things. And I think I'm going to make a video a little bit. I'm going to make a video soon. I'm thinking of the reptilians. And I used to be very skeptical of the reptilians, to be honest with you. I believe in remote viewing. I've had dreams where I definitely feel like I am going into other places, and I haven't had like crazy remote viewing experiences or anything like that, but I do absolutely believe in that. And I think that what people are seeing when they do remote viewing with the reptilians is real. And I believe that they come across, I've always thought of reptilians as more like aliens. And I think that I always thought they were a type of alien that the remote viewers were able to see and interact with, because they were, remote viewing and traveling through dimensions and things like that. But these aliens, like, I thought they were a type of alien, basically, is what I mean to say. But these reptilians, I didn't think that they were as, I guess, as of a threat, because I personally didn't see one. I saw Bigfoot. I know Bigfoot exists, and I've never seen a dog man, but I am really starting to believe, well, not believe, I know that these people are seeing the thing. I've never seen a dog man in my life. I hope I never do. But I believe these people, like, 100% when they talk about the dog man, because you can just hear it in their voice. And I had a little hard time with it in the beginning. I was like, wait a minute, what? Wait, that's why the whole thing of, people who think the Bigfoot is just nothing but a monkey that we haven't caught up with yet makes zero sense, because then why is there this dog man, and why are they so often seen together? That doesn't really make any sense. I personally am of the belief that they're of the same thing. And they could be shapeshifters. They could be. And I know I'm going to say this probably in a couple other videos, but I did an experiment actually this morning, or it was, no, it wasn't an experiment, but it was something that popped into my head. If you see a black cat, right, their fur usually is very, very black, and that's why they're called voids. There's a cute little term for them. And they have that type of fur that just absorbs a lot of light, and it's very beautiful. And that's the color fur that the Bigfoot that I saw had. And I noticed this, like, even at a pretty far distance, you are gonna see a glint of an eye. Like, you can still see the cat's eyes, you could still see a little bit of a nose. You can still see, like, even in dim light, like from a very far distance, you can still, for the most part, see features on a cat. And it just made me go back to my encounter. I didn't see ears. I didn't see eyes. I didn't see anything. And it could have been that the fur obviously, covered the face. But could it be that these things are able to morph, Could it be that they're able to transform? Could it be that they are shapeshifters? They all are. Maybe maybe it wasn't just one Bigfoot that was a shapeshifter. Maybe they all do that. And they all morph kind of in that way. Maybe they're one and the same, is basically what I mean to say. But these reptilians, maybe they are of the same thing, but I'm starting to think that they aren't. And I'm really starting to get into them. And they are kind of a scary thing to get into. And at first I was kind of like, I don't know about the reptilians. I'm not really sure, but yeah, I've seen a Bigfoot. I know Bigfoot exists, but yeah, why would I dismiss people who say they about these reptilians? And I feel like the reptilians are one of, the most, probably out of Bigfoot and Dogman, they are probably the least believed. I want to say, or they're least known. Like, I don't really know a whole lot about them, and there isn't a whole lot on them as far as I can see. Like, there actually is, but it's not basically what they don't get the attention that Bigfoot gets. And I'm starting to believe that maybe they should. So this is kind of like the end of my video. So this is the end of my video. I hope to be getting into more into this stuff, and I'm going to try to do a video on the reptilians possibly and look into them a little bit more. And for anyone, I've got a couple new subscribers. I just want to say thank you so much for subscribing. Even if you don't see all my videos, I am sure YouTube is not thrilled by anything I'm saying. And I'm sure that they do not want to push any of my videos out. So if anyone doesn't see them, I understand. And I just want to say, if you comment, subscribe, or like my videos, I'm just so thankful for that. And I hope to be making more, and, regardless if people see this or not, it's out there. It's something that I can do. It's something as someone who actually did witness Bigfoot, I can talk about it with people, and I can confirm to them, and I can tell my story, and I can talk about this, because I think it's fun, but it's also kind of serious when you think about it. It's kind of serious stuff. And I think that there's a lot that needs to be said on it. And I don't think there could ever be too much information when it comes to these things. And I think that it's important to talk about. And I think that, hopefully I can continue to do this and be helpful to people. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.